I know.
Hey, this is Dr. Victoria Andarcia. Thank you for joining me on the Healthful Roots podcast this week. I have Ashley Rocha. She is the founder of Ladywell, which we will get into shortly. Thank you for joining me today. I'm excited to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, Ashley, one of the things I wanted to talk to you today was your personal journey with PMDD and to your fertility struggles, because that ultimately led to the creation of Ladywell. So, can you talk to us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, I'd love to. My hormonal struggles really began the moment I went through puberty. I was thrown into this cycle of just terrible mood swings, really painful periods, a lot of PMS symptoms. And, during puberty, you expect to have some mood swings and all that. But that just continued through my 20s and into my 30s. So it was about 2 decades of just like this emotional roller coaster I was on every single month. And it really was like 1 week a month was taken down by just these mood swings. I became a whole different person. I was really easy to anger, like depression, anxiety, all those common things that come along with PMDD happened to me. And it really affected my relationships, my productivity, how I felt about myself, especially. And like I said, it went on until my early to mid 30s when I started trying to get pregnant around 35. And I was having a hard time getting pregnant. I was doing the basal body temperature, I was tracking my cycle, I was doing all the right things, tracking my ovulation, but I wasn't getting pregnant. And I was still having this like extreme PMS. I didn't know it was PMDD at the time until I started like really thinking about it and looking into it. And I was like, okay, there's something off with my hormones. Like I'm not getting pregnant. I've had this just emotional roller coaster my whole life. And I started to dig in and I realized this is not normal. You shouldn't be having these just intense mood swings. I was taking up to 20 Advil a day. Each
Mm.
day I had these like really bad cramps. So I was just medicating myself with Advil and basically nothing else. Like when I went to the doctor, they prescribed me hormonal birth control, SSRIs, as they commonly do. Those things were not right for me. They didn't work. They, brought on other side effects. So I really just put up with it because I didn't know that what PMDD was, and I didn't know that this stuff wasn't normal for women. And once I understood that, I started looking into the plant world because I'm a trained herbalist. I was specializing more in skincare and the outside of the body. And I was like, okay, plants are so powerful. They can solve so much for our bodies. I'm not getting the help and answers I need within my conventional healthcare system through my doctor. So I started looking to supplements, herbs, adaptogens, functional mushrooms, all those things to help me solve my hormonal imbalance issues. I started working with a functional medicine doctor. I consulted other herbalists that were specialized in women's health and menstrual health in particular. And I started finding all these herbs that were totally changing my body and helping me. And I basically had this like whole tincture like protocol, but I found herbs that especially worked for me, and I created a formula that solved my PMDD. So like within 6 months, I was able to get rid of something that I've had for 2 decades and like put up with, and it was just really amazing to me that these solutions were there. That it was just so hard for me to find. The education hadn't been there when I was growing up. There was just a lack of resources, a lack of education. Like social media wasn't as big. And then once, I saw my hormonal imbalances and I easily got pregnant, so I didn't have to do IVF. Like I skipped spending $30,000 on IVF. And now I have two baby boys and I don't have PMDD anymore. And so I created Ladywell because I wanted to bring these products that I made for myself to other women. And I realized after talking to my friends and people in my life, so many women struggle with hormonal imbalance symptoms, whether we know it's a hormonal imbalance or not. We all have, PMS on some level. There's so much infertility. A lot of my friends have done IVF at this point. It's really crazy. And it's just, I want to get these resources out there for women. And luckily, there's a lot of brands and more resources coming out these days. So we're lucky to be alive during this time, and hopefully it just continues.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And I would like to highlight maybe the difference between PMDD and PMS because we've all like heard PMS, but what makes PMDD different for those that don't know?
Yeah, so PMDD is very different than PMS, though they have similar symptoms. So I like to describe PMDD as like PMS on steroids. It's like really hyped up PMS, but the emotional part of PMS is like really heightened. So if you are getting like really intense mood swings, are you feeling really easily angered? Do you have anxiety? Do you have depression? These are all signs of PMDD. So if these are getting in the way of you living your life and becoming like a distraction and really impacting who you are, then that's most likely signs of PMDD. PMS should be mild. It shouldn't be severe. If it's severe, then you're heading into PMDD territory. But like if you have bloating, some hormonal mood swings, like breast tenderness, acne, those are typical signs of PMS. And we're all going to experience that at some point in our life.
Yeah.
But PMS also isn't normal. So if it gets in the way of you living your life, then that's something you can definitely change. And then there's also something called PME. So PME is when you have an existing condition like depression and it's exacerbated by your menstrual cycle. So you'll know that it's not PMDD or PMS because you'll always be depressed. But when you're in your luteal phase and those hormones come in, it'll just be heightened. And if you have PMDD or PMS, you usually just experience those symptoms for the week before your period. So you'll know once you get your period and those symptoms go away that it's related to your menstrual cycle. And yeah, so PMDD is just really, 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 really bad PMS, but it's definitely a condition that's been identified by doctors. And so you can get help for it and resources for it these days. But I would definitely say it's a mental health condition.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting that you mentioned, because before you said it, I knew that was probably what they had offered as solutions was birth control and SSRIs,
Yeah.
but you were able to do it, more holistic way. So that must have been like really overwhelming. And at what point did you decide that that's like, was it just when you were trying to get pregnant that you decided that you were going to try things differently, or had you kind of started on that like a little bit before?
Well, I never tried the SSRIs. I knew that I wasn't depressed because once again, like the symptoms went away when I got my period. And then like I totally forgot about what just happened. I think this is very common with, PMS and PMDD, like the cycle, like you are like changed for that 1 week and then it goes away and you like totally forget about what just happened to you. I tried so many different birth controls, like every option out there. None of them really worked for, none of them changed my PMDD. They just gave me other things. Like I got melasma, like all over my face, like just side effects that weren't great. I finally went off birth control and that improved my cycle in general and my PMDD a little bit. But also along with changing, going off birth control and taking supplements, I changed my diet. You have to change everything about you. Really, you should look at your lifestyle holistically. I started tracking my cycle. I started eating more protein, eating more hormone-friendly foods, and I also was using supplements and plant-based medicine. So it was a combination of those things. And just the awareness, too, of my cycle and knowing I had PMDD and knowing like where I was in my cycle was just a huge game changer. So I really recommend the first thing for people to do is start tracking your cycle because you can realize where you are at in different stages. You can be kinder to yourself. You can schedule around that. And having that data is really important when you go to a doctor, a functional medicine practitioner, or anybody because it gives you insights into your body and understanding of your cycle.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And so from that point, right, what inspired you to create Ladywell?
Yeah, so I crafted a formula that worked for my PMDD, and I just realized that there weren't a lot of the information was just so hard to find. There weren't a lot of solutions on the market that was really holistic in terms of its formulation. If you shop for women's health supplements, there's a lot of things that are like a few different herbs potentially mixed together or kind of one note. What really works best is when herbs work better when they're synergistically paired with each other. So things are pulled out of those herbs to be more beneficial. Functional mushrooms, we need vitamins, we need amino acids. So I was piecing together a lot of these different things and I was taking a lot of stuff every day. And I realized it was kind of complex and a little bit overwhelming, especially for somebody who doesn't have the resources to go to a functional medicine doctor or an herbalist or just like doesn't even know those things exist because it's not that easy to find that, especially if you live in a different area of the world or the United States. So I wanted to create a solution that was really holistic and comprehensive and formula. So I have a daily hormone balance, which is that main hero formula I created that has all these different things in it: herbs, adaptogens, functional mushrooms, amino acids, vitamins. So it makes treating and taking care of your hormones really easy because you only have to take one thing instead of like piecing together all these different protocols and like making sure you're not taking too much of the one thing or another thing. So it takes the guesswork out of it, and that's really important.
Yeah, I saw the ingredients in there, and I really liked it actually. And I really, just in case someone doesn't know, what are adaptogens?
So I choose to use adaptogens in my daily hormone balance because stress is really bad for hormones. It's one of the worst things for your body in general. It can really elevate any kind of symptoms you're having. Adaptogens help your reaction to stress. So we're all going to have stress in our lives. It's I think we're often told like you remove stress and that will make you like your body work better, and that's fine if we can remove some stress. But often stress will just come in anyways because we're all humans on this planet. So it helps your body react better to the stress that comes in. You can roll with the punches more. And if something comes in, it's your body's reaction is that's no big deal instead of like freaking out and
Mhm.
causing more stress, raising your cortisol levels. So I have ashwagandha in my daily hormone balance, which is really beneficial for that. It also helps with things like sleep and immunity as well, depending on what functional mushroom adaptogen you're using.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for expanding on that.
Yeah.
And like, I know like one of your missions is to make hormone health accessible and more mainstream, but from what you've done, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that women have about hormonal balance?
I think that we think our hormones are associated like really closely with fertility, and that's kind of when they only matter. Is when you're trying to get pregnant or around even around your period, right? Like it's always related to your period or fertility. And it's a big misconception because your hormones are like the CEOs of your body. They govern everything. If your hormones are off balance, you will be off balance. It's like your internet connection. So if you're working and your internet connection is kind of going in and out or being wobbly, like you're gonna have a hard time sending emails. You're gonna have a hard time accomplishing things. Things are just not gonna get done, and it's gonna feel wonky. And so the same thing with your hormones. If your hormones are not balanced, your whole body is just gonna kind of not fall apart, but like have issues like that. So things like bad sleep. I mean, low libido probably makes sense, but joint pain, like feeling cold or hot, like gum sensitivities, like so many things are linked to our hormones. And I think it's really overwhelming because so many things can be linked to our hormones. That's like, okay, well, why am I sleeping poorly? Like, is this my hormones? Like, we just don't know. We're never empowered that knowledge of our hormones and what our hormones do in the first place, and to be able to pull and recognize signs of imbalance. So, yeah, I think the misconception is that just hormones only matter when it comes to your period or fertility, and everything else doesn't matter. But we just are not told as a society that your hormones are just so interconnected with your everyday life.
I definitely agree with that because that's something that I see all the time. People don't come to me until they're looking to get pregnant or if they're like in perimenopause or menopause. But up to that like point, like energy wise, focus, even like drive. There's some women who like I'll start them on testosterone if they're in menopause, and then all of a sudden they're like, wow, like I have so much energy, but I have drive. Like I can focus at work and I want to be there.
Yep.
So it's so crazy just how things can shift from balancing or getting your hormones back on track.
Yeah, and you really should be thinking about your hormones way before you try to get pregnant, anyways,
Yeah.
because that compounds, like just poor hormone balance. Issues with your hormones will compound over time, and then it's really hard to unravel that when you're trying to get pregnant and you're like having issues with it. You'll have to like solve those issues and go back in time. If you have good hormonal health throughout your life, and it's just gonna be better for you in the end. And I know it's like telling a 20-year-old like to take care of your hormones. It's like telling a 20-year-old like take care of your body because you want to like eat well. Like we all just like abuse ourselves in our 20s. So it's
Yeah.
hard. The message is hard, but it's important.
Yeah, it is very important. And so, where would you advise someone to start? Let's say, they know that they want to get pregnant in like 2 or 3 years and they're having irregular cycles or PMS or PMDD. Where would you recommend that someone start?
Yeah. So I definitely recommend start tracking your cycle if you're not tracking your cycle, because that will just bring so much knowledge to the table. Um, I always suggest women at least a year in advance start taking supplements for fertility. Whether that's a prenatal, I have the daily hormone balance, which will help you with your cycle balance, with your stress management, with your hormone balance. And then I have a fertility and egg health supplement, which has
Hmm.
CoQ10, folate, vitamin D, which will help improve your improve your egg quality and egg health and improve your ovarian function in general. So a year in advance, I would start taking fertility enhancing supplements. But if you're a few years out, you should always be balancing your hormones. That's why we have the daily hormone balance. This is for women of, all mainly all ages to have to get their cycle more regular. Because if you're gonna start getting pregnant, you need to know when you're ovulating, and you need to have a regular cycle. When you don't have regular cycles, just in general, that's usually a sign of an imbalance. When you go into perimenopause, your cycles are going to change just because you're going through that reverse puberty of losing your cycle. But earlier on in life, like if you're having those irregular cycles, that's a sign, and you shouldn't ignore these signs until like you want to get pregnant, because once again, you have to unravel that. And like, why has this been there? Like all these
Yeah.
things. So it's whether you're trying to get pregnant or not, you want to have a regular cycle. And that's important. And this also helps you not get pregnant too. So you can only get
Yeah.
pregnant in like certain days of the month. And if you don't want to be on birth control, you can do the fertility awareness method and understand like when you're ovulating, what that window is, so you can avoid it. And it works really well. I after I went off birth control, I did the fertility awareness method for a while after I had my first kid as well. And yeah, knowing your cycle, knowing when you're ovulating is important for pregnancy and avoiding pregnancy.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. And I used that too. And it was surprisingly, I mean, I used it for years and it was very accurate. I never got pregnant, so that was good. So I think that one of the things though is like growing up, you get so scared because of like the sex ed that you're getting in school that just once, and then it can happen at any time. Like nobody talks to you about like your period or your cycles or when you can get pregnant,
Yeah.
right? I had
It's
to go
really
to
just
med school.
a scare fest and no education other than that.
Yeah. I had to go to med school to learn that it wasn't like all month that you could get
Yeah,
pregnant.
I know.
So yeah, that was interesting. And then do you have any products for perimenopause or menopause?
Yeah, we are actually coming out with one that's specific to perimenopause next quarter. But our daily hormone balance is what a lot of women in perimenopause use right now, and it very much helps with those symptoms. With perimenopause, like there's so many different symptoms and so specific to each person. But the daily hormone balance, once again, is kind of like a catch-all for your hormone balance. So it will help with those symptoms, like if you're bloating or sleep or mood swings. Like a lot of these perimenopause symptoms overlap the PMS symptoms.
Hmm.
Oftentimes you don't really know, depends on where you are in your perimenopause journey. Like you don't really know, is this PMS, is this perimenopause? So it does really help with that, both of them. Yeah.
And how long would someone have to take the supplement, or how long do you advise that they stay on it before they say, hey, like this isn't working for me, or like how long?
Yeah, that's a good question. With any adaptogens or herb-based supplements, I suggest taking for at least 3 months. At 3 months, you can start. That's when the full benefits should start to kick in. I mean, you will begin to feel it. It's a gradual effect up to 3 months. But that's what I say. Like, don't quit anything before 3 months, because you won't feel the full effects, and you need to give it the 3 cycles of your menstrual cycle to have it kick in.
Okay. All right. And that's, good to know for anyone who wants to start a supplement.
Mhm.
And now a question for you. How have you balanced, right, your lady well and motherhood, right? Because that seems like a lot and you're still like coming out with new products. And how old are your kids?
I have a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I began Ladywell when I was pregnant with my first kid. Um, yeah, I would say it's been so much of a challenge. Completely, like the probably bad timing to start a business and have a baby at the same time. But the universe is what it is, and the timing is what it is. Um, it's really about setting boundaries. Like when you have children, I just don't have the ability to work at night now like I did when I was in my like early 30s and didn't have kids. I don't have the ability to work on the weekends. So I don't really have a choice of working less in my business. It's about making those hours that I'm working in my business more meaningful.
Mhm.
And so I outsource the things I need to outsource so I can loosen up my schedule to focus on things that are more value add. Um, and then I think with this goes for people who aren't entrepreneurs and have just jobs as working moms. It's really hard to be a working mom because you always feel like you're doing both of them poorly at some point. Like one takes more priority at one moment, and then you feel like you're failing at motherhood, like you're working hard, or if you're, have to focus on your kids because they're sick and you can't work that a few days, and you just feel like, oh my God, I'm never going to make it in my job or my business. And, I've been doing motherhood for 5 years now about. So at first, like those feelings were so hard to manage. Like I just felt like so sad and regretful and like I'm failing. But after a while, I was like, okay, I knew that they were coming in and out, and it's just fluctuating, right? That's the journey. It's ups and downs. One week you'll focus more on your kids, and one week you'll focus more on your business. And I know that I just don't want to be a stay-at-home mom. I know I just don't want to not have children. So it's just about finding that balance and knowing that you're going to feel the struggle and you're going to feel bad about it. But you're lucky to have both of these, and it's hard to find balance. It really is. But the balance is kind of just like a roller coaster. It's never going to be a steady line of balance.
Yeah, no, I agree. I heard someone's talking on Instagram, and she said that the idea that you can find true balance is a lie.
Yes.
Right. And so, like, when I
100%.
heard her say that, I was just like, wow, like, what an interesting perspective, because everybody is, I think the idea that you can have balance stresses you out more. Right. So it's like you said, like
Yeah. Yeah.
understanding that you're going to flux, and sometimes it's going to be good and sometimes it won't be as good, but like you're just in flux all the time would probably be more helpful than just saying like, hey, find balance.
Yes, exactly. And coming to terms with the fact that, okay, I can't work as hard as I used to. I can't dedicate the hours I used to. And just, being okay with that. That took me, a couple of years, but now I am okay with that. And because I love being a mother, and it's my first priority. So I had to let go of those feelings of not being able to accomplish as much and be as productive as I used to be. And I'm okay with that now. It just, it does take some time.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially motherhood is such a big change that I think a
Mhm.
lot of things are changing in mindset wise.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I didn't get any maternity leave because I run my own business. So like it was, 2 weeks after having a baby, like I'm back to work. Unfortunately, like our system isn't set up to support women that are, have unconventional jobs. So I had to kind of work through it, but I definitely worked less when in those early days.
oh, yeah, I can't imagine. Um, so one of the questions I wanted to ask you is if you could go back and give yourself advice, your younger self at any point, what would you say?
You know what? I don't think regret is the right word, but I will use it because I regret just going along with, doctors or everybody telling me that like women just have PMS. PMS is normal. Like you're totally fine. Because that was just totally not true. Like there was something wrong with me. There was something off in my body. And if I had addressed it, and to be honest, I didn't have the tools to address it. So that's why I didn't. But if I had the tools and I was empowered with a little bit more knowledge around it, I would have changed my hormonal journey a lot, and got off that PMDD roller coaster a lot earlier. And I went through a divorce, and I know that PMDD was part of it. Like I would have changed a lot of things about my life. um, but this was my life journey, and it led me to creating Ladywell. So I'm not regretful, even though I use that word. So I'm thankful for the journey because it led me to where I am now. But if I could go back in time or tell any young woman what to do, it's like make sure that if somebody's telling you that if you're telling somebody that there's something wrong with your body and they say no, you're fine, you need to find a different opinion. You need to be more intuitive. You can fix it yourself. There are solutions these days where you can take your health into your own hands.
Yeah, I agree. And it doesn't just involve, going to see a traditional doctor. You have like herbalists and acupuncturists. There's a lot of different ways to get to where you want to go health wise.
Yes, yes. And the functional medicine route is amazing. I just didn't even know about that stuff when I was in my 20s.
No, I didn't even know about it when I was in medical school or even residency. And when I told people in residency I want to do like integrative and functional medicine, people are like, what is that? And I'm like, why don't people know what this is? Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, that wasn't that long ago, maybe like 10 years. But okay. And so to kind of, get people more familiar with Lady Well, I know you have an Instagram, but how else can they get a hold or learn more about Lady Well?
Yeah, you can find us at getladywell.com on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook. We're at getladywell. And then I'll do a promo code off for your audience today. So Victoria 20, so you get 20% off any of the products. And yeah, we always are trying to educate, offer guidance. We have a great blog full of tons of resources. So feel free to check that out.
Okay, great. I will definitely share that and we'll share that in the link as well. And is there any closing thoughts that you want to share with the audience?
No, just track your cycles, ladies. I know I said that like 10 times, but it's
Yeah,
important.
it is. I recommend the Natural Cycles app. That's what I used.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ashley, for your time. This was definitely very helpful, and I hope that it gets people encouraged to not only track their cycles, but to check out your supplements. I really, really liked the ingredients that was in the supplements there. It was very clean, and it was also stuff that I would recommend, but it would be maybe like separate versus you
Yeah.
have it all together. So that's definitely a much easier way to take it.
Yep. Thank you so much.